we get to this woman's house, and right when we get up on her porch, it's like the movies. I go to knock on the door, and before I do, the door opens, and she opens and looks at me and says, "There you are. I've been expecting you." And me and Mom look at each other, and we walk in, and Mom's like all excited. "You won't believe it." And she knows I've been on the run, been all over the news, blah, blah. Mom's like trying to tell her how happy and the good news we got, but she had a weird sort of a reverence about her, and she was more calm and way more intense, like serious, like this story has not ended yet. And it was basically like letting my mom get her cheerleading joy out. And then Mom noticed she wasn't chiming in, and Mom calmed down, looked at her and was like, "What?" And she's like, "I have a word for Matt, but it's just for Matt." And 2 days prior, she was in her kitchen, and she gets downloads, words, prophecies from God. And she always knows when one's coming because she'll just be randomly like washing dishes, and all of a sudden it'll come over her and she'll start bawling, and she knows she's got to go grab a pen and paper quick because he's about to download a word in her, and she's going to write as fast as she can. And 2 nights prior that had happened, she got a word for me. And she had written it all out, and it was 2 pages. And that's why, and once she got it, she even was like asking God, "Well, okay, yes, sir, but I haven't seen Matt in years. He's on the run. I don't have his number. How am I supposed to give him this word?" Not knowing that he was going to hand deliver me to her doorstep in 48 hours. Right? So now we're in her room, and she asked out of a place of reverence and respect for me and my own choices. She asked Mom and herself to leave the room and gave me the notebook pages of the word for me and left me in the room to read it to myself. Now, guys, this was a beautiful letter, and according to her, it was a letter from God to me. And it talked about a bunch of stuff, but the gist of it was, "Matt, you have put your life in my hands now. Therefore, you must trust me and speak the truth." And almost warning me and letting me choose. Do you want to keep yourself in my hands or put it back in your own and man's hands? If you want me to take care of this deal and stay with my covering, you have to tell the truth. And it was basically a letter and letting me know I can't go in there tomorrow and say those 2 words, "not guilty." I have to just say one word. The truth. "Guilty, sir." And it hit me like, fuck. Now I've got a real choice here. Which route am I going to take? Am I even going to believe that this is really a message from God? Am I even going to believe? Or, and I'll tell you, and it just came over me. I just, in my spirit, I knew it. I knew I've got to tell the truth. I came back to take responsibility. And even though, my attorney says, it's with the system and I'll get you off of this, I didn't come back for the system. I came back with God to take 1,000% responsibility for what I've done. And I don't need to change my mind on that now, no matter what pressure is on. And I sat there and broke, knowing that there's not even a choice here, knowing that I've got to tell the truth. But I also knew that I'm going to prison. That's the choice I'm making on purpose. Guys, and then she brings Mom back in the room, and then I let Mom read the letter, and my mom was pissed. Now, my mom's a believer, but this is one of those that she didn't want to believe this word, right? The next morning when we go in to meet our attorney, and he was all excited, like, "We got this." And I said, "Okay, but there's just been one change." And I told him the story, and how fucking woo and flaky and crazy it sounded. Like, "Hey, I got a, there's a prophetess that got a word from God and gave me a word last night and basically told me I can't say I'm not guilty." One, after he's done looking at me like I was crazy. Then after he's done looking at me like I was a dumb fuck, you know what I'm saying? He got mad because, again, he loves my dad. I'm his son. He wanted to do us right. he's like, well, then I can't even help you. Like, if you go in there and say you're guilty, then I can't even do my job. Do you know you're looking at 25 to life? You know, my hands are tied. I can't even help you. If you go in there and say that this morning, they're going to lock you up and you're going away for life. Do you understand this? Like, I know you believe in whatever and shit, but right now, let me do what I'm called to do, blah, blah. You know, God really loves you. He ain't gonna, you know, he was like trying to convince me, no, dumb fuck, you know, in my mind, you know, and made it hard. We're 5 minutes from the courtroom. Like, he's in his office, like pressuring me. I'm like, I get it. And I respect you, man, but I've got to trust the process. I got to trust source. And I don't know, even if I may be eternally in prison the rest of my life if I let you. But again, it was like, am I going to keep myself in God's hands or man's hands? And I told him, I'll pass. I'm going to have to trust and tell the truth. Thank you. Will you still walk in there with me? And he was pissed. We go walk into the steps of the courthouse. The news is there. All the investigators, the head investigator was there who had been like hunting me down for over a year and a half. He meets me out front.
Wow. So that was incredibly exhilarating. I have not heard any of this. I didn't know any of this story. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of blown away. And here we are next week for part 2. Come with me. Let's see how this unfolds. I'm so ready to hear this.
Brothers and sisters, we can't thank you enough for all your love, your support, and your faithfulness. It's been brought to my attention, if you really want to do something to bless us, to thank us. Apparently, simply hitting the like button on YouTube would be more impactful than what I ever knew, let alone subscribing to us on YouTube if you're not already. And then over on Spotify and Apple, please leave us a review. All of your listening and your comments to us mean the world to us. And do us a favor and just hit like on YouTube and leave us reviews on Spotify and Apple. And we're going to continue to serve you with our whole heart. Thank you so much. Okay, boys, listeners, thanks. What a cliffhanger to leave them on. That last one. So we're back here for part 2 of my story.
I like it.
Now, if you guys recall, episode 1 of this whole show was Hip's story. And it wasn't too many episodes ago. Part 1 and 2 was Joshua Carlton's story. And both of them was parts of their story, right? They've lived so many lives as myself. And guys, just to be honest with you listeners, I had been avoiding or almost like never bringing up to the fellas, hey, we haven't done my story yet. Like seeing how long we could ride without them noticing. And they finally noticed. I think it was Hip brought it up last week. And Josh was like, yeah, I can't believe we haven't done that yet. And I was like, instantly frog at my throat. Why am I saying this? To all you listeners, thanks for hanging in there with us. And I just wanted to be completely vulnerable to let you know how vulnerable this is for me, how it was last week. And here it is again this week, that it's, for whatever reason, not easy for me to talk about my story or my past. And no matter how I look or I'm coming across right now, just so you know, I'm scared. I'm nervous. This is intimidating. My own ego rises up and makes me wonder if you're going to think different of me. I never tell most people these things that are in my life. I told Hip years ago, Mike's never heard. And now these boys got me on a global podcast, sharing it with the world. So there's a whole lot of letting go here. But those of you who are actually tuning in to this story, it's my hope and prayer that you get some great value, some wisdom, some hope, some courage, some restoration in your life, in the perception of your life, in the listening of this story today. I hope this story breeds hope in you and restoration.
Would it help if I shared something vulnerable?
Well, you have, brother. I mean, okay. You created the ugly foot.
Yeah.
If there's a bus, look under it. You'll find Hip. He threw himself there. You know what I'm saying? So thank you. Yeah. But you know what? Just even being willing, because again, and I'm sure you've been a great teacher in my life and Josh's life on helping us share more openly and be more vulnerable. You've definitely helped me. And it's, I think,
absolutely helped me for sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it's some of your teachings, who you are, how you show up in the world, and our relationship that I think is giving me the courage and almost the sense of obligation and duty to follow suit and share vulnerably right now, completely against any way I'd ever want to. You boys know I'm all about presentation. Now I'm about keeping it real, but there's some things that we can just keep to ourselves.
Right.
Right. And so the things I'm sharing with you all now have always been on the list. I'm going to keep this to myself. Right. But it's the hips in our life that can cause us to be like, hey, someone out there may need to hear it. Share it. And yeah, you may get a lot of people that hate your guts, but if it affects 2 people's lives, worth it, right? I don't know. We're about to find out. But thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, boys. That was my disclaimer. Still nervous. Here we go. I think we left off on the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I made it through the night. I did not get apprehended or arrested. Met my attorney the next morning, and I think I'd shared how his mind was blown, thinking I'm a complete idiot. That, Matt, I'll escort you up there, but now you have a choice right now. We'll keep it real simple. You can say 2 words, not guilty, or 1, guilty. And you guys already know from last week, the choice that I knew, basically the letter I got that I believe came straight from the heavens, that didn't make no sense logically in man's world. And I've retained one of the best attorneys history in the city. It was even my father's attorney. And now he can't even help me because I'm choosing the unseen versus the seen. I'm choosing God versus man. I'm choosing my heart versus knowledge, head knowledge from another man, but not just any man, a true life professional, an attorney. This is what he does. Can you imagine someone coming and get tattooed by you? You know, now all of a sudden going to tell you, right?
Oh, yeah, it happens a lot more than you think.
Right? So I can't blame my attorney. And we're all walking to the court. And that was so hard, guys. This is a pivotal moment in my life. And I'm choosing. This is me wanting to take full responsibility as a young man to face any and all consequences. Take that. I'll take this one. This one's on me. That's why I'm showing up here. I'm tired of running. This isn't about lies. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about me getting off. This is about me getting right by walking in truth. Anything else that comes with that, I'm willing to take it and receive it. Even if that's the rest of my life in prison, I would rather live the rest of my life with a whole heart, knowing that I did make the right choice after all the wrong choices, right?
Because, you know, when you're faced with something like that, there's been times where I didn't follow my inner self or the universe or my higher powers' will and paid for it later and lengthier and been like, man, why didn't I just listen? And then there's been times where I had paid attention and it hurt kind of extreme at first, but it was short-lived and abundance of something followed afterwards.
My God.
And the peace of mind to where I can go to sleep at night and just know that, like, my side of the street's super clean. And yeah, I may have had to trudge through a little bit of shit on the front end to experience bliss on the back end, but at least, like, my soul's clean.
Come on, brother. And that's where I was at. But again,
and you were young. How old were you?
19.
Oh, yeah. See, now, if we go back to 19-year-old hip, nah, like, I ain't even hearing. There, I can't even be in a state and mind to even receive a message like that. Like, nope.
And that's what I'm getting at, is because most, even 19-year-olds that want to do the right thing, or in society here, it's like, you can live the rest of your life. You're about to lose your whole fucking life by trying to do the right thing. This is just part of the system. Go in there, just do your part. Say not guilty. Let your attorney handle it. He'll get you off. Then you can live right the rest of your life. But by you choosing to live right now, you're throwing away the rest of your life, you know? But I knew, and I don't know why, I can't take the credit, even looking back, like it was just a knowing. But even rewind before that, when it was time to face the fire, to turn myself in, to come home, all of it was a knowing from what I just call having God encounters, right? It was strong enough to make me go home and face it all. And again, day one, when my attorney said, hey, we don't have substantial evidence. We got the other dude's fingerprints. We got them on video. You know what I'm saying? We just got their testimonies. Hearsay won't stand. Just say not guilty, right? We covered that. Mm-hmm. But it was when I felt like, you know, the divine went to extra lengths to hand deliver me to an old prophetess's house with a message for me. There was just no denying that knowing. I've got to do this. I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust Source. I'm going to trust the universe, even if the whole world thinks I'm crazy, including my attorney. So we're walking up the steps of the courthouse. Folks, the news was there. All these investigators, and the head investigator was standing up there with a thick file of all these papers, you know, and I went straight to him. It's the dude that raided my mom's house, everything. I went straight to him to introduce myself very cordially. I'm walking up with a smile on my face, and I stick my hand out to shake it. Well, he grabs it and squeezes it real fucking hard and immediately starts talking shit, thinking that he's in for a fight with me. And he's like, and he's already trying to punk me out on the steps. Like, you're going down. And he shows me this file. He's like, we got all this against you. You're fucking going down. And he squeezed my hand real hard. You know what I'm saying? And I'm so polite. I'm like, well, sir, that's exactly what I'm here for. That's exactly. And in that moment, he has no idea. Like, we actually about to be on the same team. I'm about to help you. You ain't going to need that file. You know, he had no idea. That's why he's trying to punk me out, thinking we're going to trial and it's going to be a fight, right? So this was just a preliminary, you know, thing, just to enter a plea. That's when they always will schedule, you know, a pre-trial, all that stuff, right?
You're just going to plead.
Just doing the plea, just going through the motions, right? So at this point, it was, I'm going to get up there. The world's thinking I'm going to say not guilty. Then she's going to schedule the process to go down, right?
And we're going to make that lengthy too.
And that could be years of trial, you know? Okay, as if this story, I'm fucking hip. I'm going to, as if this story hasn't already been.
Now I'm going to put out a disclaimer, y'all.
Unbelievable up till this point.
This shit's about to get fucking wacky, and you can believe it, you don't believe it. I'm still kind of skeptical on it, but I've had enough. Yeah.
Okay.
I've
totally
got
new to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just knowing Matt and being around him for so long and trying to debunk some of the bullshit that he be saying and not being able to, but
Come
actually
to find out it ain't bullshit at all.
Right. This is just some other level shit that's about to occur
That I could completely withhold and refrain from sharing.
Totally.
Right.
So, and
Knowing it's going to make me look fucking weird.
right. But which is exactly why I'm standing for you, because when he told me, I was kind of like just smiling and nodded. I had him on a pedestal and shit. I was like, yeah, cool. And then I was like, nah, that sounds like some bullshit.
Right.
So I did my in-depth investigations and still can't find a fucking reason why not to believe it. And have multiple experiences as all arrows point to, this really fucking happened.
And Josh might be able to hang with it just from what he's brought up in recent episodes with quantum physics, getting to the place where they're at and talking about the possibility of like dual reality, multiple realities going on at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So this could fall under that category of, if we're all in a room together, like right now in the flesh, I can see Hip physically. I see Josh on my screen. I see Mike physically. So we could think that you guys are in the same world as me. We're all here in the Guardian studio, but we also know what's the internal state of a man. Just because we can see somebody in the same room of us, they could be in a totally different world, right? The possibility exists, right? So, Josh, dating myself here. Most of I think our current listeners, like Hip and Mike's age and younger, aren't going to remember this. But do you remember, and this is probably in the 80s and 90s, the old Starburst commercials? And it usually would be a setting where kids would be in school and one person would lift up their desk and pull out one Starburst. And the second they would take a bite of Starburst, all of a sudden out of nowhere, fucking rushing water would come rushing in through the classroom and just like whirl through everyone, swirl around the math teacher, all the students, and it looked like a totally different world and universe. And the person eating,
like that was like the commercial idea for a while.
It was. So you remember those Starburst commercials.
Yep.
Most people I talk to today don't, and I immediately feel like the old guy.
Well, I appreciate you throwing me in a group closer to Mike's age, but I'm actually closer to your age and Josh's age.
Okay, but you don't remember those Starburst commercials.
I remember them, yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, great. Okay, good. And yeah, it was every Starburst commercial, and whoever was eating the Starburst, their encounter, their life experience in that moment was drastically different than anyone else's in the classroom. And remember when the commercial ended, and I guess the person swallowed the Starburst, life went back to normal. And that person was looking around noticing, did this experience anyone else, or was it just in my reality? And they left the viewer thinking, oh, it was just the person that ate the Starburst. But then they'd look over and right before the commercial ended, they'd see a few water drops coming from somewhere as if maybe it did.
That. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Just
a little hint. Yeah.
Okay, and to me, that's an important analogy, whether you've seen the commercial or not, to have that visual for the wackiness I'm about to describe. Similarly, that happened to me in this courtroom. Okay, so we walk in, the news is there, everybody. We go in the courtroom. Again, this is just preliminary. And guys, I remember, apparently I had the toughest judge. My judge was actually a female. Her name was Barbara Gorman, and she was known to drop the fucking hammer and just didn't fuck around, right? Because, whenever you get an attorney, they're always hoping what judge we'll get and stuff. And, when we got her, he's like, man, you got the toughest judge. She don't play no game, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, well, perfect, because I'm not here to fight anyways, It's my turn. I get up to the microphone. And the judge is like, Mr. Clemmer, how do you plead? They're just going through the motions. And I lean forward. And guys, it was as if time stopped, because every ounce of me up until this moment was a knowing that I must obey. And it wasn't even hard for me on should I or shouldn't I. It was hard for me knowing I am obeying. But the weight of this and the consequences of how my whole life is about to change once again by obeying one command with one word. And I lean forward and say that one word. And I just lean forward to the mic and I say, guilty. And the judge was starting to go on and stops herself and leans back in and asks for me to say it again. It was totally thinking I said not guilty, but didn't hear the not part. Asked me to enter my plea again. Excuse me, Mr. Clemmer, what did you say? And I leaned forward and said, I'm guilty, Your Honor. Guys, in that moment, time stopped. And it was like one of those Starburst commercials. But instead of rushing water entering, it was like rushing winds came all through the courtroom. I'm talking physical. I could hear it. It seemed loud. I could see the effects. I could feel it. And it whirled around the courtroom and it was present everywhere. And I watched that wind go up and whirl all around the judge and almost go through the judge. Immediately, the judge hit her hammer and basically gave her judgment in that moment. And in that moment, since I entered I'm guilty, she basically, and I'm not going to quote her, but she basically let me go on my own recognizance and scheduled my sentencing date for 2 weeks from now, right? So I'm guilty. I'm looking at 25 to life. I just entered the guilty plea, so I'm going to be sentenced to either 25 years to life. And she set that date for 2 weeks from now. Well, Hip, normally they should be putting the cuffs on me, throwing me in the county, put me in a holding tank.
Throw bail.
Yep. Or bail or without bail.
Yep.
Just hold me there until I get out in 2 weeks to get sentenced, right? And immediately when she did that and let me go on my own recognizance and hit the hammer, guys, the look of shock in her own face, that those were the words, that it was as if something else took over her body and caused her to say that sort of judgment. And once she hit the hammer, immediately the prosecutors jumped up and started objecting, because I've been on the run for a year and a half.
Flight risk.
There was like, what makes you think he's going to come back in 2 weeks? We're never going to see this guy again. Like, they wanted me to be locked up right then and there so they didn't lose me. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they, and that's why they were extra pissed, because they weren't able to apprehend me. That's why dude met me on the front and shook my hand, was fucking talking shit and pissed. They were, I think, embarrassed because they had a whole manhunt, couldn't find me. Here I am turning myself in. But again, it makes no sense in any court ever to just let me go that day. Well, guys, to be honest with you, I thought that was my gift for obeying. That basically God gave me 2 weeks to say goodbye to everyone I love. And boy, I did. Literally, because I knew 2 weeks from now, I'm going up at least for 25 years. And so I lived it to the fullest those 2 weeks, saying whatever I wanted to say, telling whoever that how much I loved them, that I ain't told them. I remember even those 2 weeks I went and spoke. Someone had me come speak at a high school. Someone had me come speak at a youth group. And it was a wild place and a wild timing, because obviously I had a great testimony that was real fucking fresh, right? And to let them know, just when I was speaking, how full of peace and joy I am, knowing that my days are numbered. And no matter what you're going through right now, you at least have the freedom to face it. Whereas I've lost mine, and I'm going to be up. They're shipping me up for decades, right? So it was a wild, beautiful, and powerful 2 weeks. And guys, I was living it to the fullest, receiving the gift that I feel like I obeyed. So God gave me 2 weeks extra,
Wow.
That was insane.
I definitely,
go ahead.
I definitely believe that it happened because, you got to remember, I had hospital delirium. And so I know what the brain can do. And, you've mentioned already in the story how even when you were first doing the robbery, how when you knew you crossed that line, you were fleeing and you were throwing up. And what you're describing is very similar to when I was in the hospital. Like, your brain does crazy shit to protect you. Whether it was that, whether it was divine intervention, I don't know. But I do believe that what you described did happen to you, and at least in your own mind, as believable as we are sitting here today.
Well, thank you, Josh.
It's crazy, though. Wow.
Oh, my God. And it's so crazy. It's hard for one to put into language, and I'm sure you struggle with that, even when you came out of it. Now, I think if I recall your story, Nikki was closest to you, and you were able to recant the place you just came from pretty soon thereafter.
Yeah.
And so maybe your language on being able to express it might have been better in that moment when it was fresh versus me now, fucking 30 years later or whenever.
Exactly. Sure.
But yes, thank you for that, brother. Because again, guys, believe it or not, I have no ulterior motive for making up such stories. And it actually scares the hell out of me to even tell this story. But I'm all in, and I'm just telling you the truth of my experience in the reality that I faced, whether it seems unbelievable or not. Well, okay, fast forward 2 weeks later, we come back into sentencing. I've said goodbye to everybody. And my attorney does stand up, and he pleads a great case for me actually being a good guy. But again, he's just going through the motions, trying to maybe get her to have a heart and
soften the blow.
Soften it. And he made points like, hey, this is the first time you've ever seen this guy. And he's gone through a lot of changes the past year and a half. I can guarantee you, I don't believe this man is a threat to society. And that's why he's come back on his own to turn himself in twice now. 2 weeks ago, and he stuck around, and, I believe he's literally turned a corner, and actually he's a good guy. So we could just lock him up, throw the key away, and forget about him. Or we could give this boy a chance to do something good, whatever. I'm just giving you the gist of what he was proposing, and you could see it all over her face. Hell no. And I could tell she wanted to go hard. Cause again, in the spirit realm, I discerned she was still embarrassed about what she did 2 weeks ago. So in case anyone thought, she's fucking coming hard. Right. And after she hurt shirt, and I could just see it on her. She's ready. And guys, before, and I'm telling you the fast version now, before it was time for her to sentence me, that wind came back. All time stopped. That wind came back and forced literally new words out of her mouth as she hit the hammer. And again, the look of shock on her face. And guys, instead of sentencing me to prison for 25 years to life, she put me on a real severe probation where I had to report daily, and put me on 5 years probation where I had to report daily, then weekly, with all this time hanging over my head. And it was literally giving me one last or second chance. That I'm already guilty. I'm already convicted. I got 25 to life hanging over my head. But okay, Matt's attorney, if you think so, I'll let him fuck up one more time, right? I'll give him that chance, thinking that if I broke one parole meeting or one probation meeting, one dirty urine, whatever, boom, they arrest me on the spot, right? And guys, and again, she hit that hammer. There was an uproar in the courtroom. Minds were blown. I didn't get sentenced at all. Meanwhile, Jason, already sentenced, already doing time in prison. I'm supposedly the mastermind behind it all. The difference was something else was at play here, but I was still given a choice on what cards I want to play, and I chose to trust my heart. I chose to trust God. I chose to trust the divine versus man. And I cannot believe, even to this day, because if I would have gotten sentenced, guys, I would have just now been getting out. Right? You guys probably wouldn't even known me or known me as the dude that I've been given such grace and mercy in my life to even get to step into being today. The fact that I'm here, a free man, to be your guys' friends, to serve with you each week, to all you wonderful listeners, is a real fucking gift, and it's a real joy that I wasn't supposed to get. So that wind came back, let me go. Boom, guys, I was so on fire for life, so mind blown. I thought I was going to prison for life that day. I didn't have to go in for one, right? I was so it was unspeakable joy, amazement that, guys, I was so on fire. I showed up to probation stoked, on fire every day. And guys, I wasn't even on probation a year. And my probation officer started writing letters to the judge for me saying, this dude don't even need to be here. This dude
Did you smoke weed at all on probation?
I don't think so.
Or partied or anything?
I'm sure I was around it. Yeah. But no, this was on my second chance. I wasn't even about to fuck it up, right?
Yeah, how stupid would that have been?
Go through all that and then fuck it up over some bullshit, which is very common. And I'm sure the temptation was there because I even had dudes tell me, like, Clemmer, you could smoke this long, and just the day before you drop a urine, you can take this and it'll mask it or what. I wasn't even trying to like fuck with it, you know. And I was on probation for 5 years, but I wasn't even on a year. My probation officer started writing letters to the judge. He was bringing me down, having me speak in front of the other people on probation, you know. That was like some of my early speaking days, you know what I'm saying? But it came from such a pure heart of joy and restoration in a life of like second chances. I'm now living a life that is a miracle because I wasn't even supposed to have it. Some could argue definitely don't fucking deserve it, whatever. But isn't that love? Just like what my grandma showed me. Mm-hmm. The type of love that wasn't earned, wasn't deserved, right? And here we are now, the decision of my whole life. I was shown mercy in a system that I definitely didn't deserve. And it would take a miracle. It would take something greater than our system, greater than man, to orchestrate, initiate, and totally manipulate. And I was watching all that happen in real time in my own life, in my own head, in my own heart, in the courtroom I was in. Just mind-blowing. But that, boys, set me on a trajectory to actually live again and live it to the fullest. And so my heart was exploding with possibility and opportunity. Well, who am I going to be? What am I going to be now? Because it's not that old guy doing, you know what I'm saying? Well, guys, back then I was, 19, maybe 20 years old by the time they let me go. Today I'm 46, so I've lived a lot of life since. But I do believe that story, one, is foundational and important for all you listeners who know me or have developed an opinion about me. And even Josh, after we recorded last week, told me that some of this story started to almost fill gaps or help make sense of who and why I am who I am today.
Definitely. Made me, it definitely filled in some gaps for sure.
Mm-hmm. Good. And hopefully it did it for our listeners. My life took crazy turns after that. Now, you guys know I've shared it before when we were all little and asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer was always Moses. Wanted to help lead people out of bondage. That's why it didn't make no sense. I was fucking around with that dumb shit anyways, right? So crazy, but one thing led to another. And shortly thereafter, I ended up enrolling into Bible college. And starting in the fall of, I think it was 1996, I joined Bible college down in Cleveland, Tennessee. It was called New Life Bible College. A real small school. Down the street's Lee University, where it's a huge university, but it's a Christian university. But you can go there to become a doctor, a lawyer, a math teacher. At the school I was at, the only book we brought to class was the scriptures, right? It was hardcore. People down the street thought we was crazy. You don't go to the school I go to unless you're going to like immerse yourself in the scriptures, the Greek and Hebrew translation, and basically devote your life to being a vessel for God, just walking in love, life, power, whatever that looks like. And that's what I decided I was going to do, Now, that's a whole nother story because Hip remind me, any of you, and I would love to do a whole masterclass or a whole seminar on this, any of you that have been completely almost destroyed, hurt, burnt, literally traumatized by religion, by religious upbringing, right? Brothers and sisters, I've been through it. And I went through it, and I'm so thankful because whether I want to use the label God, source, the divine, the universe, I'm just so grateful that I was able to separate the two. What do I mean by that? Because we all run into shitty people in any sect, in any niche. There's asshole tattooers, but not all of them are assholes. You used to think so, right?
Correct.
And just like, and so what I'm getting at is if you've been hurt by church people, fucking flakes. Did you know Jesus himself, his only enemies was the religious? He had no problem with anybody else, the partiers, the prostitutes, whatever, the tattooers, people like you and me. The only people Jesus ever had a problem with was the men of the cloth, the religious. I used to say, I always feel bad for God because he's got such poor reps, right? And I always love the bumper sticker that says, Jesus, save us from your followers, right? But what I'm getting at, but I'm thankful I went through all that. But even myself, I was going to say I got set free from religion. I was never bound to it, and I don't know how, but I wasn't. There was that knowing. And so even though you may have had a poor encounter with some fucking flaky preacher somewhere or a whole church or whatever, oftentimes people are like, well, fuck this quest to be enlightened. If this is what God's all about, fuck God. And it's not. It's just these dumb fucks that you're around. Instead of saying, fuck your whole journey for truth, instead of saying, fuck your whole search to be enlightened, instead of saying, fuck God, because that ain't him. Just because you're around some flakes, you can be like, fuck this place, fuck this preacher, fuck these people, I'm out, right? Instead of allowing them to rob you of your own personal journey for you discovering truth for yourself. And somehow I was able, and I've always been able to separate that. Yes, I've been hurt before, but I wasn't going to allow the hurts of misinformed people, right, Hip, to alter.
Misinform you.
Yeah, and
right.
to alter my own destiny. But guys, so now fast forward, after I went through Bible college, and so guys, the cat's out of the bag. I used to be a preacher myself. Clean shaven, suit and tie, travel the country, speak behind pulpits. Now, I will say I was always thankful because I wasn't limited to just one denomination. All of them would have me. I've always likened myself to being a bridge, and I'm still to this day friends with ministers all over the world, and we don't align or see eye to eye theologically on everything. And that's not a prerequisite for you to be my friend, that I will respect you of where you're at, even where you decided to stop, right? But all that, you listeners, I get it, can be damaging to where I almost feel like a calling to help people heal from religious trauma. And I would love to maybe offer that down the road. But at least today to let you know, boy, I've been through it and I've seen it all and I've done it all. And myself going on those quests. So let me fast forward now after Bible college. Now I'm living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm at a place called the Prayer Center. Now, Tulsa, Oklahoma's got several mega hubs from different denominations.
Oh, that's the Bible Belt.
It's a big part of the Bible. It might be the fucking buckle, because where I was at in Tennessee was the belt too, right? And guys, I knew, I'm an all or nothing guy. I wanted to literally impact the world and walk in as much power as I can. And I couldn't understand for sure of why sometimes I'd pray for people and a miracle would happen. Why other times I'd pray for people and nothing would happen and they'd die.
Right, exactly.
Right? Why do some people, we say a prayer and all of a sudden they get healed and they get better and it's great and we're all like, oh, yay, thank you. Why someone else, nothing happens for them and they die. Right? And those questions I don't allow to throw me into, well, fuck it all. Those are questions I live into and want to be a vessel to help figure it out. So back then I thought, well, the only person standing in the way is me. And this is all the old die to self days, right? So I threw myself into long seasons of fasting and prayer. And so, for example, and the guy I was rolling with, lived a life like this. So my regiment was, guys, I would pray in the Spirit every single day for 6 hours a day before I started my day.
Jeez.
And then I'd go on long fasts, right? So I'd start praying, which is even crazier because I've never been a morning person, at 6 a.m. And I'd pray from 6 a.m. till noon every day.
God.
And I set myself on this regiment to do this every single day for the next 6 months. Then I'll reevaluate.
Send me to prison.
You know what I'm saying? And no one put this on me. This was me. You know, the same heart that you have of, we're going to do it. I'm going to show up and take full response and do the best. So what can I do? So I know you could get with this.
Right.
But
and I'm just, I'm the comic relief.
Yeah.
But I'm just maybe not mature to even be able to see that. But I get like the discipline, the dedication to your higher power and wanting truth and understanding for the greater good of man.
That's right.
I totally get it.
Well, and what I didn't realize, because my heart was in the right place, I meant well. I'm turning everything over. Like, I'm fucking all in. I'm so willing, and they're so. Let me prove it to you. I'm going to fucking pray every day for 6 hours a day for 6 months straight and go on 21-day fast all the time. I'm fucking in, right?
It's common sometimes, especially for men, to have a mentality of seek suffering. You know? Like, I honestly am that way myself. Like, huge David Goggins fan.
Yes.
You know, I didn't I didn't want the suffering that I've been through, but I definitely have always liked a little bit of that. So I kind of get it. I definitely get it.
Okay, brother.
I would
good.
probably do something like that.
Well, and it's funny because as we grow, because Hip has always been that way, to where once Hip's already suffered in climbing up a certain mountain and he's conquered it. And you know, Josh, once we go through something and grow and get to the next level, now we're at the top of a mountain, only then can we see all the other mountains to still climb. You know, but when you're on the bottom of your mountain or in the middle of it, that's your mountain in life, and that's all that exists, because you can't even have the perspective to see beyond it because of where you're at. And I would watch Hip get to the top, and before he turned around and received the gift and basically loved himself that he actually just did the thing he'd been trying to do and has never achieved it before, and feeling bad about receiving next level shit, before he could change his perception to turn around and see, oh my God, there's even more levels. I can keep going. He would self-sabotage. He would feel bad for doing it. And we teach about this in TVM and what we call upper limit triggers, that he would sabotage his own life and make himself go back down that mountain, back to old friends, old ways of being, and fucking reclimb it again. Because, you know, he wasn't used to not having that pain, and what was it? Almost like flogging himself, where people do penance themselves, you know.
Martyr syndrome.
Martyr syndrome. And after I watched him climb the same mountain like 3 times and then just go back down it because he felt bad turning around looking at everyone he's leaving behind, he went back, you know, and it was finally that led to his breakthrough. I had to meet him at the top of the mountain and just turn him around and let him see so much more that is waiting on him. And that's when it finally helped lead Hip to a personal breakthrough in his life. And we all face that, you know.
There's always more.
Yeah. And you even want more.
Yeah.
But you were dealing with the worthiness of actually receiving it. You worked so hard, you wanted the thing, you got it, and you couldn't receive it. But what you could receive is knowing what you've always known, which is more struggle. So you go back down the mountain and start the battle over because that's what you knew so well. But you didn't know how to receive worthiness, right? My God. And we're all there. So fast forward to another God encounter. Guys, I had been praying and fasting for a while now. And it's one day, Josh, I was in my prayer closet, which was an old shack at a lake in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And guys, for whatever reason on this certain day, I just wasn't feeling it. And I was 4 hours in. And to go another 30 seconds felt so daunting. To go my full 6 hours on this particular day just seemed like impossible. And I warred with myself internally. And I just, for whatever reason on that day, couldn't push through. And I just left my prayer closet and went home.
After how many hours?
after 4 hours, because I was praying for 6 hours a day for 6 months. And I was several months in, and it was around hour 4. I couldn't go the final 2. So I walked out. Instead of me just whatever, saying, hey, it's okay, Matt, we get back in there tomorrow and pick up where you left off. Dude, so much condemnation was over me, and I started beating myself up like, I guess I ain't about this. I guess I don't really want to walk in power. Like, I didn't really want it. I fucking gave up, and there's only 2 hours left. And so I told myself, nothing I have done up to this point counts. I'm going to have to restart the clocks in this whole regiment starting tomorrow, as if it doesn't count unless I do the whole deal. And I was so bummed, just in such defeat. And dude, I can't tell you how defeated I was that next day when I walked in my prayer closet and like threw out anything that I'd done up to this point, all the points, none of it matters. I'm starting over. And I just start going into praying, right? And guys, it was like God himself showed up to fucking bitch slap me. And did, and was basically showed up and was like, and basically was like, Matt, what are you trying to earn, purchase, or obtain that I have already earned, purchased, and obtained for you as you on your behalf? Listen, Matt, I appreciate your heart, but you're not God. And you're not supposed to be. I don't need you to be, ain't trying to be. I want you to be free like a little boy and go out and fucking enjoy your life. And in that moment, he downloaded a complete new vision in me. Because up to that point, I'm going to be the greatest preacher ever, right? And basically, he downloaded a new vision, gave me new instructions. Step 1, get out of that suit and tie. Step 2, I'm removing you from the pulpit and from this fucking church. And he set me on his own path and gave me the vision that he wanted me to go back home to Ohio, link up with my twin brother Todd, and start writing music and to start a fucking rock band. And it was calling me to be the front man. Guys, I had never sang in my life, didn't even really know how to sing. Now, you know, we teach this all the time. When we're clear on what we're called to do, what we want to do, what we're supposed to do, the how will reveal itself. Now, guys, this was so clear, it was like the heavens opened up. Again, another word that didn't make no sense. I've been trying to be a preacher, and God's telling me I don't need you or want you to be. I actually want you to go fucking do rock and roll. You even clarified on the vision. Matt, I want you to be a real fucking rock band, not a cheesy Christian rock band to play pizza party lock-ins for youth groups. Like, we're good on that. You know
please,
what I'm saying?
No more, please.
He's like, man, I want you up on the front lines in the real world with real people in real life and being a real one yourself. That's who you are. You good with that? I'm like, well, yes, sir. You know? I came running. I was set free. And basically, he didn't let me know, like this regiment I put myself, he didn't ask me that. And I fell into works. I created my own man-made formula of how I was going to get God to move. And if I do this and do this, I will purchase and obtain the right, the whatever, the power. Like, I made my own formula and I threw into works. Now, my heart was in the right place, and I accidentally fell into works, like trying to buy my righteousness or something, prove it, right? And I feel like God himself set me free from that. And I was like, Matt, from this day forward, look, I know your willingness. I got you on speed dial. If and when I need you for anything, even if it's aisle 9 at the grocery, brother, I'll fucking call on you. Until then, be free. Go play and live your life. That, as your father, will make me the happiest, right? And it was mind-blowing. And again, guys, give me room for language, right? I'm just trying, when I say, you know, God, Father, any of this, right? Could be the divine, all-knowing, the version of you that knows more than you, right? So when I left there, guys, I had just heard from God. Who did I run to? All like the guys I was submitted under, my mentors, knowing, well, they're hearing from the same throne room as me, so this new word, it will totally resonate with them. Because we're not serving multiple gods here. Like, they hear from the same God I'm hearing from, then, but guys, when I went back, and I was so excited, like, I just had a God encounter. I'm sure there's a glow on my face, right? When I told them what I was about to do.
They ain't trying to hear it.
They ain't trying. You'd have thought I told them, like, you know, and they literally thought, like, I was ready to go fucking worship Satan the rest of my life. You know?
Hail Satan.
Yeah. Like, man, let's get this straight. You really want us to believe that God has instructed you to not fucking do what you've been doing and wants you to just go and play rock and roll? I'm like, exactly. Isn't that fucking crazy? I know, right? But that's what I'm doing, Guys, I didn't get any support from them. And on the contrary, it was real hard and manipulative because they were trying to make me believe I'm wrong. I'm off. I missed the mark. And that this is, and they, and if you've been in religion, the manipulation, they don't even realize they're manipulating, saying, Matt, you've got this huge call in your life and you're called to be a prophet to the nations and all this shit. And this is the devil's way of deceiving you and taking you out so that you can't impact the world type of deal, And guys, and I was forced again, like we say it all the time, who you listen to, who you going to listen to? Am I going to listen to the truth that's exploding in my own heart, even if it don't make logical sense to man? Or am I going to listen to man's opinion, who I had on a pedestal and respected, right? Here we are again. To walk your truth, to speak your truth could seem like a lonely path. And it broke my heart. And I was trying to convince them, no, boys, I'm not missing the mark here. This is real. Y'all missing it. Like, listen to me. You know what I'm saying? And then it turned into, because I lived with them. And it turned into, if that's your choice, you can no longer live here. You need to move out, like tonight.
Wow, isn't that compassionate and loving of them?
Mm-hmm. And guys, that broke my heart too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We've been rolling together. I've been living out here for almost 2 years now, fucking putting it all in, blood, sweat, and tears, being a servant, doing all the things, right? It don't matter, guys. Oftentimes in life, when you get called and when the whole world may be against you, it may not make sense. People may think you done lost it. You being led astray. Trust me when I say, when you have that knowing, follow your heart, even if you have to do it alone. You won't be alone very long. I called my twin brother Todd. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's 14 hours away from where he was in Ohio. He got in the car immediately and started driving to Tulsa. I went in with a broken heart and packed up all my shit. 14 hours later, Todd rolls in the driveway. We load up and I leave that town. And now we're heading back to Ohio. And I'm telling my own brother the vision. Hey, we're supposed to start a rock band. And Todd's always been a singer, songwriter, and guitarist. And I was always a drummer, So at first he's thinking, cool, we're going to jam together. We grew up as kids. I had my own set, a Slingerland, by the way, when I was in 5th grade. But you want to hear something funnier, Todd? I swear, I'm supposed to be the front man, because up until then, if I tried singing, Todd would stop and be like, Matt, don't sing.
Plus, Todd was always felt second anyway, right?
Totally. Here we go again.
Right.
Move over,
of course
Todd.
You're gonna be the front man.
I know. Todd, I know you already sing and write songs, but move over. Here I am. You know what I'm saying? But Todd being the brother that he is, and here's the thing, that word resonated with him. He got almost more excited than me. He could see the vision more clearly than me. And we went home and got to work on vocal lessons. And Todd started teaching me actually how to sing. And we started writing songs. And man, there was like an extra special grace, power, anointing on it, whatever you want to call it. And if I was given the choice, what would you rather be? The most talented person in the world or anointed? I'll take the anointing every fucking time. Because if you got an anointing on you, it's going to land and be way more powerful than if you're the most talented fucker. And we even know that to this day, you can have someone that's really fucking great on the neck of a guitar and know the chromatic scale, all of that. And someone else that may play 6 chords from their heart. One may penetrate your soul more than the other. There's something more to just talent and the tech of it all. Now, we need it all. But anyways, I didn't have any of it. But the calling and the anointing to do the thing, knowing I'm going to trust like I've been trusting, and that the how will reveal itself, right? And back then, so now we're talking around 2000 is when this happened. 2001, we won the Dayton Battle of the Bands. Well, then this turned into 3 years of like touring and looking like all our dreams are going to come true. In 2003, we were offered 4 major record deals, and there was 4 labels really interested in us. And the final step, one of the final steps that all these labels wanted to do was called a, I forget what they call it, but they wanted us to, they wanted to see what the world would look like if everyone knew our songs, right? And so they all wanted us to schedule a big show in our hometown in front of all the fans that do know us. And all these label execs flew in to see us perform downtown. It was at Jilly's, and it was a fucking packed house. Everyone's wearing our t-shirts, knows the words to every song, to give them a taste of, if we sign these dudes, what would it look like, right? Guys, we played our hearts out. And I remember it was Sony Records, Geffen Records, a record label out of Miami. There's 2 other, and I can't remember them all right now. I just remember Sony and Geffen, and like there was 2 others. I want to say, well, it don't matter. Anyways, after the show was over, and you know me, I jump around and I'm just sweating and sweaty. The fans are in there screaming. We're backstage. We come off. Immediately, the execs meet us there with our manager, and a bidding war for us happens immediately on the spot. Well, back and forth, and as a bidding war, well, Sony won because they had the most money. So Geffen Records and the others like, we can't. And guys, within moments, again, our whole life's about to be changed. And this was 2003. So Sony was offering us $10 million to sign with them. National distribution. Back then, there was a show called TRL that was real hot on MTV, and they were promising us national distribution on TRL, all the things, right? And me and Todd are standing there, our drummer and our bass player, and it's like, okay, it's happening. And this is fucking, we're not an executive table. This is backstage. Boom. And so my manager's stoked, and like the other dudes fell off. So we're like, cool, I think our whole lives is just changed. Well, Sony brought the 2 producers with them that's going to be working with us and introduced us. And these 2 producers stepped forward and told me and Todd the vision they had for us, Josh. And I can't believe how much they wanted to change us, completely change everything about us. I thought they were joking. Now, I'm young, I'm green, you know. Who they wanted to turn us into was literally a joke to me. And I was like laughing, thinking, well, of course not. But Josh, I realized these dudes were fucking serious.
Yeah.
And that's when I immediately was like, well, no, that isn't who we are. That's nothing like the show you just saw. Like, I thought the reason why you wanted to sign us is because of who we are and what you just saw. But you're trying to totally change us. And they're like, well, yeah, but this is what sells right now.
Yep.
And so I fucking looked at Todd, my twin brother. We're twins. We can speak without using words. And I turned back to him and I was like, guys, thanks for flying all the way across country to come to our show tonight, but no thanks. I don't think we want to get married to you. And immediately they were like shocked and blown away, like, no one turns us down. This is people's dreams. We just offered you $10 million. You saying no? Immediately my drummer and bass player was like, dude, for $10 million, we'll fucking sell out and play country and wear pink Speedos, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but you're the drummer. You're the bass
Mike
player.
Tyson's
but like,
in front of my grandmother for $10 million.
You know? And I'm like, dude. And so all of a sudden the producer started talking to my manager, like, man, you need to holler at your boy. And he's like, well, he's standing right here. You can talk to him. And so here's what they said to try and keep me, Josh. They're like, look, we're going to have you sign for 6 albums. Do the first 5 the way we want you to. And then on album 6, we'll give you creative control. And like I just had stupid written on my forehead. Okay, so after the world for 5 albums decides that we suck, who do you think's even going to buy my 6th album to finally get, you know, like, and that's why I was like, no, thanks. They just couldn't fucking believe it. And my drummer and bass player were kind of pissed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm sure.
But to me and to Todd, my twin brother, no dollar amount is worth the whole world knowing me as someone that I'm not. I also knew I wouldn't have anonymity, and I didn't want to go out to dinner with my family, have zero anonymity, have the whole world in that restaurant know who the fuck I am, because I'm famous for singing that one song that even I didn't like. You know, to me, no dollar amount was worth my soul. Like, and we immediately turned it down. And again, those boys acted like that don't ever happen, you know.
Kudos to you, man, for doing that, because most people wouldn't pass that up. You know, like I'm in a interesting similar position where I also worked with Sony with my band, and we had not, they didn't want to change us, but they definitely were very controlling.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you're like, is this even worth it? Because at first you're just like, oh my God, I got signed. And
That's
also
right.
the $10 million, was that paying you, or was that, usually it's a loan?
Right. And, you know, once we got farther, it probably was some sort of front that we were going to have to pay back.
Usually it's like, where's my paycheck? And you're like, oh, we got to pay for the videos first and pay for the record and pay for this.
Yeah.
So you made the right decision. I mean, I know you probably look back sometimes and you're like, man, I wonder what if. But you know what?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I think sitting here doing this podcast with your friends and your successful own businesses that you're doing now, to me, I think that's so much more rewarding for the heart that I know that you have. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you, brother. Yes. Because, all that money, that's not what I was even doing it for. Like, and they could offer me the whole world and all the money, but if you're going to take away me and what we're even in this for, then it doesn't fucking, nothing else matters.
You would have never even had another chance to redeem yourself. Let's say you got out of the record deal and they made you some clown, right? To try to be the true you, you know, it doesn't work that way. Nobody really gets to do that.
Right.
You know, do you remember when Prince used to write slave across his face? He was fighting with his label. This shit happens all the time. I've been signed to several record labels, and it was nothing but trouble except for the last one. They did us really, really well. But, you know, it sounds like a big dream come true, but guys out there, if you're musicians, listen to Matt's story. Be careful. Don't change for fucking nobody.
No, man. And I'm thankful, again, I don't know why I had the fortitude. I think it's because, even though we were fucking broke, dude, in them days, it was like we were paying for the bar tab. Like, dude, as long as I can
sign you a check like today.
Right then and there, like, and so that just shows you how much we weren't about the money. Like, I was about the creativity. We're artists. And if you like our art and want to help us share it with more of the world, I'm in. But if you're trying
we love
to
you. Let's change
pay
everything
me
about you.
Yeah, if you're going to try and pay me millions of dollars to not do my real art, and now all of a sudden do what you think's cool art, I'm out, you know? But the weird thing because, dude, I felt like we'd worked so hard, gotten all the way there. I felt like I'd gotten to the top of that mountain and it's like, oh, this is it. It's not real. I can't really be me. So on that day, Josh, for whatever reason, I hung the microphone up and decided my days of being a front man are over. And that was the only discrepancy me and Todd had, because Todd was like, well, fucking let's keep going. Let's still be a band.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get other offers. But for whatever reason, I felt in my spirit like, nope, this chapter's done. I hung the microphone up and I was like, now I've got to figure out a real life to live, a real career. Because I can't just keep playing for $40 to pay my beer tab for the rest of my life, you know? And that was a dark days in me and Todd's relationship, because he was in a little bit of denial. I literally just hung the microphone up and walked away from it. This is when I decided I was going to maybe try this tattooing thing. That's when I went down and scared as hell and asked, you know, some local shops, and Brenner was one of them. They all told me no, you know, but Brenner was the one I really, really wanted. And he told me no over and over again. And so I knew, and the guys have always been an artist, you know, did paintings and murals and stuff. So it seemed like no one was going to give me a shot at tattooing. But I'd heard from a friend that murals and faux painting are so hot right now, and they're popping off everywhere in Phoenix and Scottsdale, Arizona. And my buddy, it was actually the girl I was dating with, her brother. So it was about to be my brother-in-law, was a loan officer out there in Phoenix. And it was like, he's got clients every day. Guys, if you want to move out here, man, and that's what I did. We ended up moving out there and I started my own faux painting and mural business.
Which is how you met Katie, right?
In Scottsdale, Arizona. Yes, that later led me to meet Katie when I got back to Ohio. But yeah, so I literally, and that's when I started doing faux painting and murals. And that's when I started learning even early on the TBM shit of communicating, consulting, putting proper value on yourself. Cause I would get walked over, right and left and, by clients. And that's when I had to learn real business and how to talk and stick up for myself because no one else was gonna. And man, I got raked through the coals and cast my pearls before swine time and time again. Half the stuff I teach in TBM today started back then, right? After doing that for 3 years, and I think I've told the story of how I finally convinced Brenner to take me on. And I was standing underneath a lemon tree in my backyard. And after I called him for the billionth time, or it seemed like it, and he'd tell me to get fucked and hang up on me, I'd call back. And eventually, this was on a Friday, he was like, and I think I was just that gnat that wouldn't go away. He's like, all right, motherfucker, be on my doorstep Monday morning, 10 a.m. with $4,000 cash. Click. And that was my apprenticeship fee. This was on a Friday. I knew that he didn't think I'd be able to be there in 48 hours. I was standing under the lemon tree like, I think that was a yes, and went all the way to Dayton. And that's when I started my apprenticeship with Brenner, which changed, again, the trajectory of my life. But before I became into a tattoo artist, I'd already lived 9 lives, and not only spiritually, but even in business, which is why I think helped me out when I became a tattooer, how I was able to bring some things with me that I'd cultivated in either personal development or in a world of sales. Because in between there, I did all kinds of sales, that it just gave me a foot up on consulting in the tattoo game, right? Which has just led to a beautiful career in tattooing. But I think I'm going to just pause right there because I just feel like I'm rambling. Is there anything, Hip, that you want me to share that I haven't?
Well, I didn't think you were rambling because I enjoy hearing it. And there's some little particular parts here and there that I don't think you ever talked about or that I just can't recall. And I know our listeners are all familiar with like the battle to get the apprenticeship and stuff, but like I'm interested. And, I think our listeners would like to hear like what it looked like once you got through the apprenticeship. And, like, didn't you say your first Best of Show, you and Bob Tyrell were going head to head of a portrait and weren't even aware of it at the time?
Yep. Yeah.
And that almost helped you because like he bitched you out for how cheap you charged for it.
That's right. Bob Tyrell was one of the first dudes to light me up that I was devaluing the whole industry by doing the work I was doing for so cheap, And
you and Cotterman apprenticed together and taught seminars together and traveled the world together.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that? Because some people, I'm sure to most of you listeners, a lot of people, it's like, well, we know Joshua Carlton. Who the fuck is this Matt Clemmer dude? And how come we didn't know about him? Right? And even back then, and the only reason why is because you're right. I came up with Kyle and Big Meese, like in the beginning. And so the roads they took to be as well known as they are.
And I've asked you this before in one of our late night talks.
And for whatever reason, guys, especially at the time, I didn't know yet how I wanted to be known in the world. And at the time, I wasn't so sure I wanted to be famous or known as a tattoo artist. So when the road came, I stayed back. When the magazines came and Kyle and Meese are throwing their, and I remember this so many times, Kyle was like, dude, I'm submitting this in the magazines, Matt. You should send yours with me. We both get in the same mag. And I'd always withhold. I never set shit into the magazines. It was like I was still hiding in a way because I I wasn't ready to put myself out there and be known
Do you
yet.
think there was some fear in that too? Like,
There was fear in that. There was definitely fear.
and what I mean by like,
There was unworthiness.
yeah,
And there was also a sense of I'm still being developed. And I'm, for whatever reason, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to even introduce myself to the world yet. There was a knowing that it's just not my time, or that's the way I felt, you know. And so I would pass those options up. Now, obviously, especially back then, it came down to your work. Yeah, I may have the outlets, and yeah, I could maybe get in a magazine with Cotterman or Meese, but if my work sucked, it don't fucking matter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I was developing myself to become the best artist I could be. But this was when my local community game kicked in. Instead of me trying to be famous like in the industry, how can we just impact my city? Like, and that's when I got real famous in the city, and I was all about customer service. And this is also when Kyle and Big Meese started hitting the road and circuit and started to be in almost every magazine, especially Kyle, you know. But part of me, I just withheld from all that, you know. And here we are, fucking almost 17 years later. And don't you know, for whatever reason, I've decided to let go on some of that and put myself out there in the world, which you guys all know has been in just recent years. Well, now I'm fucking going from the dude that didn't know if he wanted to be known in the tattoo industry. I'm sitting here on a tattoo podcast with you two gents, right? Founder of Tattoo Business Mastery, co-host of the Tattoo Guardians, and best friends with Hip and Joshua Carlton.
creator of Aisle 9.
Yeah, right? So it's just funny. But it went from, I'm not ready, and I'm not worthy, to, oh my God, this is our one life, and ready or not, I have something to give the world. Why I'm rooting the world on, and I just want to help the rest of the world step into their true best versions of themselves and not sell themselves short and not take like a path that's tempted in front of you because it may give you freedom for life or millions of dollars. And they're both illusions. They're both lies. To help the world know the difference and to make the distinction of what's what and what's not right and true for you, no matter what man says, no matter what anyone says, to help the world be able to hear the difference between their own heart and all the other fucking opinions and noises that are thrown at us all over the world. And that's a big part of our work today, isn't it, Hip?
It is.
Yeah. And we're still going and we're still growing together in every way, as am I, even to this current moment, by me sharing my story right here with you guys and being vulnerable. Speaking of vulnerable, because I'm a dad too, you know. And this is Sybil, who snuck into our studio. Say hi. Say hi in the microphone.
Hi.
What do you want to tell the world? I know it.
Can I make an eye?
Yeah. What's it like having me as your dad?
Father and Papa.
Yeah, she also calls me Father and Papa. And if we're almost done, but we're still going. You've been great at being quiet, girl. If you want to take this over to your space over there and draw it. So, guys, this is real life. Here you go, little mama.
Thank you.
Yep. So I'm growing right now in this moment with the vulnerability to share with you guys some of my like deepest shit in my diary, knowing it's going to be judged. Right?
That's all right, because it's none of our business what people think about us.
Man.
That's right. I appreciate the vulnerability. I know I've said it several times, but that's a hell of a story to tell. You know, you set out in the famous words of Jared Way from My Chemical Romance. You sound like you had a calling to be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned.
Come on.
And it's a beautiful story in a dark, scary way. And yeah, that's fucking hard to tell. So I appreciate it. Listeners out there, let Matt know you appreciate this. This was hard for him.
Yeah.
This is an important episode.
Yeah.
And
I
real
love you, Matt.
quick,
Thank you, Joshua. I love you too, brother. Big time.
where in that time of like church and shit was the meth binge?
Yeah.
Where does that fit in?
And that's the crazy thing, because my whole story would just explode or make religious people's minds explode. Like, what?
Which is why I even bring more and the people that are anti-religion,
Yeah.
you know, to feel that like, you mean I can be this and that, or
Right.
you know, I can go and fucking smoke crack if I want, or like do a hot rail and like still be cool. Like, yeah,
I'm
totally.
telling you, and like, this is cliche, but God looks at a man's heart. You know what I'm saying? Not just your deeds. That's the trap I threw myself in, trying to impress the spirit realm with my good deeds. I'm going to pray more than anybody, fast more than anybody, right? And he basically showed up and was like, man, there is, and this is true for all of you, there is nothing you can do or need to do to make you more accepted and more loved than what you already are, just by being you. You are free to be free. Indeed. There's nothing more you need to do or have to do to become more accepted and more loved than what you already are, right? And that's why I always drop one of my favorite scriptures is God's eyes are constantly looking to and fro the earth, just looking for a what vessel, Hip?
Willing.
A willing vessel. Not a perfect one, not one that prays a lot or fast or does all these good, deep, blah, blah. Just someone's like, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll fucking do it, right? And the reason why I say all that is because once I let that go, well, guess what? Never changed. My willing heart to want to make an impact, to want to be. If I get to be a part of a miracle and someone's healing or brightening someone's day, any way, shape, or form, fucking count me in. Switch my knob to on autopilot. Always, I'll break the knob off. I'm always in. I'm always willing. Just call on me, right? Because I can't tell you guys the miracles I've gotten to partake in, be a part of, be a vessel for complete miracles, healings, emotional and physical, where on paper I wasn't looking like the viable candidate to be used. So yes, there's been times. Yeah, just because you start partying, you know, I could literally, you like, if we put any drug in front of me right now and I do it, even though it's going to alter my state of being, it's not going to alter my true identity. Now, how I act in the moment may be altered.
So yeah, you know, you can give either man a beer, and what they put in them isn't what defiles them; it's what comes out.
Yeah. And you take that with a grain of salt. Again, back to if we just all were honest with ourselves and spoke our own truths. Anytime we get caught up in life is when we start living a lie and living a false identity. Even that's what got me in trouble in the first place. That wasn't my true identity, but it always takes a beacon of light, a beacon of love to show up in your life. Call those things which be not as though they were, and speak to the real you. Will the real you please stand up, take responsibility for it all, and life can be so much better by you just having the courage to be the real you. And we all get faced with whys in the road to where, you know, even though my heart's telling me go this way, man, and everyone else and the money and the check, everything going this way, right? But I've been through so much pain in my life, so much ups and downs, and so much trauma, and so much awakening and healing that it's still so strong in my DNA to just want to fucking help the rest of the world while we're in our process. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, what do we say all the time? Like, the best way you can help the world is fucking working on you, right? Yeah. And take responsibility to be the best you. Hip, the fact that you chose years ago to be clean, and ever since you have just decided to be in integrity with the best version of you. Now, we all fall down, but we get back up. But by you living that has been the inspiration to me and so many to want better and more in our own life. If Hip can do it, I can. I can't quit because Hip hasn't quit, right? And I want to be that for someone else in their life. Just an inspiration for you to speak your truth, no matter what it looks like. even though it seems like maybe everything you've been working for is about to all go down the drain, your whole fucking life. But if your heart is leading you against all odds, trust that. The desires placed in your heart on purpose, for a reason, to honor that in and out of every season that you're in. And the how will be revealed. You don't have a lack of resources, maybe just a lack of resourcefulness, right? But when we step into our own truth and we grow in our own resourcefulness, the how will be delivered to us fucking daily. And that's the scary shit. The things we say we want. It is easier, more cowardly to shrink back and live a false life, right? But to put it all out there and to speak your truth. But that is what leads to all the magic that's on the other side of the fear, on the other side of unworthiness.
Like what you just did these past 2 episodes.
I hope so.
Well, you just said it. You can't contradict it.
Well, right.
You know it to be true through experience.
I do. And I hope this is one of those that these 2 episodes have just really blessed somebody out there. Like Josh said, will you write me and tell me, though?
Or at the very least, it's giving the haters some more ammunition.
Oh, yeah. I told you he was fake.
Motherfucker said it was windy up in the courtroom.
That's right. That explains it. He's a Bible thumper. That fucker. You know? Oh, goodness. And it's crazy how we grow because you know what, boys? And I'm again, just how I want to honor you, Hip, for the decisions you've made, because it's brought you to this table. And same with Josh, and same with myself. And here we are. We've created the Tattoo Guardians podcast together. And you know, our guys, our heart was just to try and help our industry and to help the world. And I think we're doing that, right? Mm-hmm. And now, and from us being in a relationship together, because we cause one another to grow. I mean, doesn't Mr. Carlton just like make you fucking want to be on your P's and Q's and just be like, we serve and want to show up for one another in the best way we can. Now, obviously, we're all human. We all have our down moments. We've watched each other fall down and just get back up, right? But the consistency and the integrity to the vision, no matter what, keep going. On days we don't feel like it, on days we're scared, on days Josh is like throwing up, but yet he's here. We're here. You know what I'm saying? Seeing it through to impact the rest of the world. And out of this journey has been birthed Josh's program, EIK, Everything I Know, and tattooing, that some of the lucky folks now get to work with Josh personally in his program. Out of this Guardian show, you know, Tattoo Business Mastery exists. So it's layers of us wanting to help serve the world, and we get to, you know. And I'm just so thankful. Who knows what the future holds and what any of us 3 decide to be when we grow up. But in the meantime, we still have the honor of serving the world and the tattoo industry. What Josh always says, us is just having the hearts to leave you in it better than when we found you. And that's really what keeps me coming back and sitting in this chair with you 2 gentlemen. And I appreciate both of you.
We appreciate
you too, brother.
Guys, it was a doozy. It was a doozy for me. All of you listeners and you fans, thank you for your love, your support. Hopefully it continues after this. Because your listening and views really mean a lot to us. What were you going to say, Josh?
Yeah. Oh, I just said canceled.
Canceled. That's right. And if you're listening to this, it's proof that we decide to actually air it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if Hip's got anything to do with this, you're going to be hearing this. So if you're hearing this right now, tell Hip thanks. He talked me into actually sharing it with y'all. My goodness. We love you, Guardians, all over the world. Speak your truth. You're not alone. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks, y'all.
Man, what time is it? 12:14 a.m. Matt, I don't know about you, but I like coffee.
You know I do every day, all day.
Man, and I could go for one right now. So our listeners, did you know that you can buy us a coffee?
For real?
Yeah. All
Why
they
would
gotta
they do that?
Well, if you like what we do and you support our show and you appreciate our content, you can just go and click that little button that our producer Mike puts in every show and buy us a coffee just to show your contribution that you appreciate what we do for you to
Are you
help
for
us
real?
out.
People can really buy us a coffee.
Totally.
I'd be honored if you bought me a coffee.
And not only that, but we got a little spot. It's special for the VIP listeners. It's called Close Friends on Instagram. And on there, you can see some behind the scenes content. And when the cameras ain't running, seeing all the shit we'd be talking about each other.
Is that true, Mike? Damn, you guys, this is the first I've heard about either of these. So they can buy you or me a coffee.
Or Mr. Carlton.
Or Mr. Carlton. And like get a sneak peek behind the scenes.
Yeah.
By doing what again?
Fucking smashing that button.
Okay. What button you talking about? I want to smash the button.
It's the button on the fucking thing.
Okay. Do it. Just do it.
Absolutely demolish the button. But thanks for your time again, and we appreciate all our listeners.
Always.